Well, howdy there, folks. Hope you all are doing good, having a great evening. Oh, I'm just getting ready. I got 3 videos here for you. I got one by Warren Smith, another by Cash Jordan, and the last one we will have is by Angry Cops. All these are kind of relating to the situation in Minnesota going on right now. I don't know too much about the situation going on in Minnesota, aside from the fraud. That was the last update I received on it. The Nick Shirley video exposing the fraud and Tim Walz resigning. From what I understand, ICE was coming through, and one of the protesters that constantly come out of nowhere and start, interfering with ICE. Interfered with ICE that day and apparently got shot. And now there's a big uproar. I've seen that. I've been seeing that. But I haven't been paying much attention to it. I figured it was I figured this was kind of inevitable in a way with the rhetoric. The rhetoric kind of spurned on by the leaders of the Democrat Party. I mean, with all the instigation going on to go out there and go interfere with ICE. Literally, I mean, let's translate that. Let me go tell everyone, let's go mess with people with guns. Let's go try and stop them from doing their jobs and call them Nazis. To me, I think it was just stupidity. That's why I haven't been paying much attention to it. Go ahead and like the video, but I'm curious to see that's my first knee-jerk reaction, right? That's my knee-jerk reaction. I think it's horrible that a life was lost. I don't condone that by any means. But this is one of those situations, if anyone tries to compare this to like a Charlie Kirk thing. One got shot for speaking, the other got shot while interfering with ICE. Government operate two different planets these happened on. So regardless, the life being lost is a tragedy. No, I don't think anyone should misinterpret my words on that. But when I say that it was expected due to the rhetoric, what I'm saying is simply that what was to be expected whilst using that rhetoric. I'm saying for the Democrat, I'm saying that the accountability should be on the leaders of that party who are constantly saying to go do that. And that's like an actual illegal thing. That's a government operation, not, hey, let's go to a university, a public university, and schedule an event and debate with people. That's. You would think I wouldn't feel the need to clarify all this, but I do. These people, I think there's a lot of people that just don't put 2 and 2 together and will jump to conclusions. And so I'm just slowly breaking that down and just hey, if I say it slowly, does it make you think a little bit more about it? Instead of jumping to the conclusion of they're both the same.
I mean, this could spiral out of control very.
For a narrative, for a purpose, I can see the motivation. It's just, that's the thing. People just jump to they'll have a motivation for it or something like that to make it the same. All right. Let's go ahead and get started.
very quickly. This is the perfect storm. The clip that was going around the most was the clip that is difficult to deduce what is actually going on.
The angles are hard. When I watched the first angle yesterday, I was like, it didn't really seem like she was kind of hitting someone or about to hit someone. And then I watched another angle where you see the front of the car, and it's like, oh fuck,
Kind of clips him almost.
yeah, she is kind of clipping him, and it was like,
I think
fuck.
let me see if I.
It doesn't look.
Yeah, the one angle that's there too isn't a good angle. I will say I've seen the video, the short it's like 5 seconds is what I've seen. So I haven't seen much of the prior context going into it. All I saw, which was floating around and probably intendedly so, just the sheer incident where lady tried to drive off and immediately ICE agent was trying to, I think from what I perceived, it looked like he was reaching in to grab her, and then the other, his buddy to the side, I think from what I could see, it looked like he was more in the path of the vehicle. And the moment that vehicle started to just basically try and zoom off, he stepped to the side and unloaded that thing into the driver's seat. And it was like, what? I mean, I don't know which direction she was going. I don't know if she was going, like, it could have been that the direction she was going was 2 more ICE agents. Like, I don't know. Like, it just from the offset, yeah, I can immediately say it looks bad. I get it. It looks bad. I won't disagree. It don't look great. But we better have all the information before you jump to a conclusion, is all I'm saying. But I'm not going to be quick to jump to a conclusion on this situation at all. At all. I'm going to wait for the information to come out, and I'm going to take it slow and see what it is that ultimately happened. You know, you got 3 sides to every story. You know, the two people involved, and then the truth. 2 parties involved and the truth. That's what I think any lawyer or any police officer would tell you. Anyways, let's get back to it.
Kind of clips him almost.
Yeah, she is kind of clipping him, and it was like,
I think
fuck.
let me see if I.
It doesn't look good. Let's just be real about it. It is on that line. This is about as close to that line as you can get. But then when you look at the other angles, you can see, had the wheel not turned, yes, he could have been run over, he could have died. This has happened before.
As the Jeep continued to advance, Officer Caprio got off 1 shot. WJZ won't.
They won't show the rest because the officer, I believe, was killed.
Yes. The stakes do not get higher than life or death. And once people perceive the threat of death, it's the first shot heard around the world.
Donald J. Trump is going to kill you. It's pretty good, right?
I was talking to Chris Williams about this, and we saw this coming.
I think it's only a matter of time until it's not just painting a target and someone pulls the trigger on either side. And
I could have guessed that it would have been our side, the conservative side. Could have easily guessed that. For a simple reason. It's because these people are crazy and they're going to push you and they'll cut off their own nose to spite their face. I'm sure I'm butchering that sentence, but you know what I mean. Lighten up their own feet to warm up their hands. It's that whole bit. They have no self-preservation in mind. They're only focused on the emotions, the feelings of it. And the fact is, these people have been convinced that they are fighting Nazis. If you honestly yourself believed you were fighting a Nazi, would you feel unjustified? Would you feel like your life being, in danger was not going to be used as a catalyst for like stopping the Nazis? Like, that's what I'm saying is like you create a motivation, you create an incentive for acts like these to occur. because you're incentivizing people to go out. The Democrats, I'm saying, are incentivizing people to go out on the streets and interfere with government operations. It's like telling everyone on the street to go, hey, if you see someone pulled over, go mess with the cop. I'm like, and then wonder why the cops are all on edge and they get itchy trigger fingers all of a sudden. Like, what? It's like, the people are human. People are human. This was inevitable. Like Warren is saying, these guys are hitting it nail on the head. It was inevitable.
Target, and someone pulls the trigger on either side, and that's where I'm worried that something is going to happen that's going to escalate things.
It's almost as though Tim Walz is trying to bait the.
It doesn't have to escalate. That's the thing that people don't understand. It doesn't have to escalate. The escalation ends. Like, escalation is one of those things that it always seems like it's never ending until all of a sudden it just stops. Like, you gotta imagine how about the I have to imagine that the escalation, when it comes down to, like, think back to like the Cuban Missile Crisis, that is like, there is no point I would think in American history that would be more like paranoia inducing and fear inducing of escalation. As far as the fear of escalation, there'd be nothing more impactful than knowing for a fact that nuclear war was potentially imminent. It was like, it's a hair's breadth away. And the people who's like, where that decision will be made ultimately is but a few, you know, just basically military members, and then your cabinet members and ambassadors and whatnot, but like ultimately, like, what, a couple hundreds of people, maybe thousands at most. You're not talking like, hundreds of thousands, I wouldn't think. Certainly not, millions. But this is what I mean but these thousands will ultimately, like, either doom or save the rest, so to speak. Isn't that kind of, poetic in a sense? It's the same thing here. Yes, there are people out right now that are going out and they're traveling the country and getting into these protests. I think, honestly, some of these protesters are paid. Like, this is their job. They travel the country and this is like, they protest. I've seen the what was it, the job, like the LinkedIn profiles. I've seen the profiles of protesters that are advertising themselves as protesters. I'm like, what? How is that possible? How could that be your job? But you don't believe me, go check a LinkedIn. It's not hard. You'll find protest organizers, and a lot of times they have instructions for, like, protesters, basically. Like, they themselves are a protester in the organization as well. Like, they're setting it all up, and they're incentivizing, they're teaching basically others how to protest. So if you ever have a problem with the method in which a person is, like, which a group, I wouldn't even say a person, but which a group is protesting, single out and focus in on the teacher or the protest organizer of that group. Who taught them all to do that? Or you saying everyone had the same thought at the exact same moment? I'm not saying that's impossible, but in certain circumstances, that's very unlikely. Anyways, sorry, I'm getting way off topic. Where were we even at? Talking about this situation going on in Minnesota? Minneapolis? Yeah, either way. Well, see what I'm saying? I don't even know. Because that's why I really don't even care that much as far as about this. Yeah, it's Minnesota. That's what it was. I don't know why I want to say Minneapolis. Minneapolis? Is Minneapolis in Minnesota? Am I crazy? I might be crazy.
Federal government in.
We have activated the State Emergency Operations Center. State Patrol and Minnesota National Guard leadership is connected with the Minneapolis Police Department, the St. Paul Police Department, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, the DNR, and Minnesota's Homeland Security and Emergency Management. We have activated dozens of members of the State Patrol's mobile response team.
If he deploys the National Guard in a way to combat the federal government, that's game over.
To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, you've done enough. There's nothing more important than Minnesotan safety. I've issued a warning order to prepare the Minnesota National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary.
It's scary because Tim Walz has nothing to lose at this point. He's already dropped out of the race. He's getting flack for the fraud, so he's all in. He has every incentive to double down and double down.
To Americans who are watching this, if you're in Portland or you're in LA or you're in Chicago or you're wherever they're coming next, stand with us. Stand with us against this. This was so.
See, I was so annoyed by this interpreter, by the way. This interpreter, I'm not knocking, like, if you need an interpreter, okay. Why right there? That's so distracting. Does anyone else find that any distracting? It's so distracting. Half of the time I thought she was trolling me with those signs, because it doesn't even look like real signs, like that's an actual language. But regardless, I mean, that's my personal opinion. It didn't look like it was a real language, because I've only seen the signs, like the hand signs and movements. So I'm like, why do you need all the, like the super exaggerated facial expressions? It looks like you're doing some extracurricular activities aside from signing. I'm just like, was that necessary is my only thing here. Anyways.
You see, that's what's dangerous. When you tell them to stand, when you tell people to stand against law enforcement trying to do their job, that's exactly what that woman was doing.
He's pushing this idea of we're at war with the federal government. How does civil war occur? It's a war with the federal government. I want to show you this clip. This, I think, represents at least 25% of the population's sentiment right now.
People are upset. They're angry. Some people on the verge of tears. And as we speak, protesters are planning their next move. Joining me now live is Holly Brown. She is the leader of a local protest group. Holly, what is your plan for tonight?
Yeah, so tonight we are going to be meeting at the ICE facility at 7 p.m. We're going to be protesting against ICE there. We're going to be standing against their violent actions here in Portland today. We're going to
Do I need to say anything? Can the silence be the answer? I'm just saying, when Charlie Kirk passed away, or I should say passed away, when Charlie Kirk was murdered, I mean, he was assassinated, martyred. There wasn't violence. There wasn't like this. Do you see people go try and storm a family house, try and storm police stations? I'm sorry, it's just the same thing. This is like what, 10 I heard something of that. It was like 10 miles or something like that. It was fairly close to the site of George Floyd, where all this was going down. And it's the same situation with that. You've burned down the city. You caused millions of dollars of damages. How much damage was done? I would love to know how much damage was done by conservatives after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. How much, like, property damage, for instance, was done by conservatives, not people going and demolishing the memorials to Charlie Kirk and counting that as property damage. That's clearly, we know what side that was. We're not, like, this rewriting of history needs to stop. It gets very frustrating seeing this. She's this lady, God bless her. I hope that she gets better information on this, because I don't think that, looking at this lady, I mean, this lady seems to me almost as likely like she's in the camp of people. I'm not saying she is one of these people, but she seems to me like to be in one of those camps of people that wouldn't even want to call themselves a woman, but add extra adjectives to that, like cis, this or that, or trans or whatever, to make it, why? Just to complicate it to corrupt it.
Be demanding that the ICE agent who shot these people is arrested, and we're going to be fighting back.
People are being clear. That ship has sailed.
Okay, Holly, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
We'll continue to monitor the situation out here and down at the ICE facility.
This really captures what is happening. It's just a matter of time until someone else does something stupid. If the police separate themselves from ICE, if people perceive that.
Yeah, we've seen several interviews with the mayor, and he said that you and he had publicly and privately discussed concerns that you had about ICE agents on the scene.
The thing that shocked me the most was seeing the police chief standing next to these politicians endorsing this.
I heard about this, right? So this surprised me too. I agree, Warren. This surprised me as well. This was you would think that the people that are interested in going into these professions would only be interested in going into them for the right reasons, but in fact, in that the people who do go into it for the right reasons would kind of gatekeep it from the people who go into it for the wrong reasons. You know, it would kind of be on the lookout for that. But if the roots themselves are corrupted, which I think the root of that particular state government ending with Tim Walz is corrupted. We look at the fraud going on. You gonna try and tell me it's squeaky clean? I don't buy it. Anyone who does, I got a bridge to sell you. Just send me it in Cash App. Anyways, the very clear, like it's very clear what's going on with this. It's all to basically inflame the tensions between right and left even more so, especially, and try and basically put the casus bellis, if you would say, on the left, back the onus back onto the left, to where if the right tries to correct things like the law and order, just basically, that's what I mean by correcting things, just basically coming through with the, hey, you didn't know, no, we're not destroying, we're not doing another George Floyd 2.0. We're not doing the BLM riots. Nope, we're not doing none of that property damage stuff. We're going to come through and check this real quickly, to show you what law and order looks like. All of a sudden, they take that as a justification to go and, go to their leaders, and their leaders are now feeling confident enough to go against the federal government? See, this is what I mean. Normally the only way this is gonna stop the escalation, this all started because of the escalation. Let me end it back on this topic. Escalation, it all circles back to the escalation. It stops the moment the people say it ought to. It stops here. When people say it stops here, no more. You'd think it's not possible for everyone to do that, but it doesn't require everyone to do that. It just requires a number of people to do that. Specifically from the extremes. It takes a certain number from those extremes to be wise enough to avoid violence. That's all it takes. Because you don't open up that Pandora's box, so to speak, when it comes to like a civil war. The talk of a civil war, these talks have been going on for many months, almost a couple years now. But it's been more inflamed ever since Trump got elected. Like the left is like feeling real bittersweet, and they're like, you know, I'm ready to divorce you in this relationship, sort of thing. You know, for the foreigners, you know, whoever watched my video. That's sort of what it is. Like the Democrats are so bitter. Like a lot of Democrats are so hurt by the election that they like is ready to secede. I mean, and I'm not saying that, you know, conservatives were happy when Joe Biden was in office, especially with the COVID and everything like that. Or hopefully I don't get taken down for that. But you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously everyone had their own things with, you know, their own methods for dealing with stuff. Escalation is one of those things that we need to all agree that it's stop. Like a certain violence is a weird thing. When I'm talking about violence, of course, I don't think that, you know, if it was a mutual combat sort of thing, honestly, I think that'd be more healthy. I think if we were allowed to do that in a ordered way, that would be better for the health of the society, and it would establish a quick hierarchy very quickly. So I said that. It would establish that hierarchy very quickly where the ideas would be tested instead of all on paper. Because I think a lot of times, because we all just talking to mics and stuff like that. I was about to lift up my mic, but it's not going to work. But because we all sit on phones and stuff like this, we don't actually interact and then feel the consequences or see the consequences of our actions right away. It's all delayed now. So we have like that comfortability to be ways that we normally wouldn't. We'd have a bit of feedback, you know, we'd have feedback sooner. Right now, this is all really delayed feedback. So you all could be yelling at me in chat right now, you know, or in the future, because right now I ain't got nobody in chat. This is very early it's only my second live stream.
Message.
Just about a month ago, you said these unplanned...
Back it up.
Endorsing this message.
Just about a month ago, you said these unplanned and questionable tactics by federal agents would result in someone being killed.
I am obviously very concerned.
I just want to say one more thing. That my main point with the escalation thing is that it ultimately ends, like the buck stops with the people who enforce the violence, I should say. And that's these people. That's the police. And so usually, yes, all these politicians could be saying one thing and laws could be instilled and stuff like that. But if the police weren't sitting there to enforce it, to be the, you know, quote unquote, acting like the quote unquote big brother, you know, then you wouldn't have a huge, you know, any issue. But in this case, it's them not watching over you is the big brother. Like they're saying, hey, we know there's people that are angry and we've made them angry and we've told them to be angry. We've already directed where their anger should be at. If you're in that group, maybe you shouldn't be here. And we don't have any protection at the moment. We're too busy as the police. We're too busy to get wherever your 911 call is at the moment. Sorry. It's like this is what's going on over at Oregon in Portland. That's what we've seen in Portland. What makes this now, at least this is the police chief open and honest, like what? At the end of the day, these people are Americans. Yet they're not treating America like she ought to be loved. Treating America like a mistress instead of a wife, in a way. It's weird. You should love your country is my whole thing. I think, you know, you should want your country to do better. This is like just like how your family, you want your family to do better. It's all an extension. It's all an extension of faith. You know, you, depending on where your faith lines up, Christ is God. So if you believe that, go on forward, and you should want him to be glorified in everything that we do, and that includes our country, one nation under God. So if you should love your nation. You should treat your nation like as well as if to the point of a wife. That's how much love I think you should have for a nation at that point. I think that's roughly right. It's not to the degree where you love God. It's not like, but it's to the point where it's like, hey, yeah, no, I know where I love my country, because if my country's not here, then my family can't be here. If my family can't be here, then it's not going to thrive in the area that I know it is to be successful. And if it's not successful, then it's my own fault, because it's my country, darn it. Like if our country sucks, then it's our fault, because we're not doing it. We're not making it better is what my point is. I think the onus is on us. And so if our police chiefs aren't with us, this is, I think, exactly what the Democrats have done. They're like, oh, well, they've kind of wisened up to this, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Excuse me. I keep wanting to say Minneapolis. Oh, yeah, no, Minneapolis. Okay, no, Minneapolis. Okay, no, I'm right. That's why I wanted to say it. But that's what they did. They were like, oh, well, we didn't have our police chief before ever being able to enforce it because maybe they were conservative. A lot of people who go into police force are, I'd have a hunch to say. My hunch says. So yeah, it's just, we need to take those areas back, I think.
That I have been told that a woman who was sitting in her car blocking the street and not the target of
Same thing with the
any enforcement activity is now deceased. However, I do not know, to be clear, I do not know the exact circumstances of the shooting, but it
creates the perception of a division between ICE and the regular police.
If the police chief doesn't even know.
You don't get to put hands on law enforcement officers.
Talk about
That's not your First Amendment right. You're not fighting Nazis. You're assaulting agents that, because of rhetoric, like people like Jacob Fry, has led to attacks on their lives. They've had to cover their faces.
That division is the thing that is going to compound.
And I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. People are being hurt. Families are being ripped apart. Long-term Minneapolis residents that have contributed so greatly to our city, to our culture, to our economy are being terrorized, and now somebody is dead.
It creates an incentive structure where people believe that, well, my mayor, my governor is on my side.
I have made it clear to everyone within my city government, and that extends to NYPD, that we are going to uphold our sanctuary city policies.
Two sides. The people that feel that this woman was blatantly murdered, well, the stakes don't get higher than that. That will spur radical action.
This is crazy, bro.
It didn't spur radical action when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. What was our radical action?
I don't know what's going to be.
What was conservatives' radical action?
Yeah, man. This is bad.
Day after the shooting, we had another shooting, and the headlines don't go into the details. It just says...
Why does it have to be radical is my point. Why does it seem like it seems like it's either we do nothing or we act radically. Why is it one of those? Why can't we have a measured response? Not jump to conclusions every single time. It's what the problem is, in my estimation.
2 more people shot by federal officers. That is going to fuel this sentiment. This guy from military intelligence
go get a drink.
Does a breakdown of how foreign actors are weaponizing this situation.
It's about tracking the disinformation spreading online about the event. how our adversaries are using this event against us. So the first thing I want to show you is the power of AI, or artificial intelligence, in this incident.
If we continue
I'm listening
down
to it,
this
don't
road,
worry.
This is only going to get worse. I mean, I don't know what to say about this that hasn't already been said. Nothing I say is going to change anyone's mind.
There was a bunch of kerosene on the ground and someone lit a match and flicked it, but it happened to land just like a little bit off. It didn't quite catch fire to everything else, but that might not be the case if another inflammatory sort of event occurs.
I don't have a. I mean, don't you feel in a way like this could go south? Am I off for feeling like this? There's potential here.
I think you're right to be concerned.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely that we'll see a civil war in the way we think of civil war, where it's literally an organized, like they have declared themselves independent and they are rebelling against. It would be the federal government with all the military and police. I think that's, unless it was some bizarre, like certain states went, I just can't imagine it. So when I'm talking about escalating conflict, I don't necessarily mean this as a civil war. It's something like much more invisible, more difficult to see. That I don't know.
Minnesota's mobs are storming their local ICE.
All right, we're on to the next video. You know, this is interesting because, you know, YouTubers warn that we are close to civil war was the one that we just got done watching by Warren Smith in his Secret Scholar Society. Now we're going to jump to that. He just got released that. Warren Smith, he had just released that. Now we're watching Cash Jordan. He's just released this 2 hours ago by the time I'm watching it. And so it's pretty fresh. It's fresher than Warren Smith's one. Curious if there's any new information or if this is just the same information just when he got it out.
Headquarters
here when they hear the mayor of their city saying ICE should get out, and they don't hear much from the governor except please behave. We saw what happened in 2020. The question is it going to happen again?
I mean, look at that guy getting in front of a moving car. If we didn't learn a terrible lesson about this yesterday,
look at this. People are getting arrested.
You got to just question the judgment of these individuals.
Yes, you
and
do.
Also just
unless, of course, it's your full-time job.
Do you have a job? Do you have a job?
Shame. I'm getting paid right now. What? Shame. What? Oh!
I mean,
they admit it. That explains.
They did just admit it. I had someone tell me, "What? You're crazy. Those protesters aren't paid." But they say they are. Like, they say they are. So are we just gonna like? How long are we going to be yelling no for? I'm not saying every one of them are paid, but I think a lot of them are. A lot of them are probably paid.
Explains why these mobs are out here running full speed away from federal agents they've just altercated with. These are classic Antifa tactics right here. Someone gets arrested by federal agents, it gets filmed, it makes its way on the internet, but what you don't see are the crimes this person committed that allowed them to get taken down in the first place. They're not just out there arresting everybody, they've singled this person out for a reason. They've got him surrounded for a reason. He's going into federal custody for a reason, and the reason he did all of this is because he's being paid, and you're supposed to think some average-looking guy who's outraged by the Trump administration in a red-orange jacket is now getting arrested, and that this could be any of us next.
Will not touch immigration. We arrested 2 illegal aliens from Somalia today on the streets of Minneapolis, both with significant and others had very long rap sheets. Where are the police arresting them? Or if the police do arrest them, why aren't they turning them over to ICE and Border Patrol? When you ask them that, they don't seem to have an answer, Laura.
Your message to those tonight.
Because they want everyone to think that the only people getting arrested are average Americans, when it turns out you've got to be a fugitive in the country illegally, and you've got to have a rap sheet to even be on ICE's radar.
What do you think about ICE's presence in your city?
Yeah, what does Ilhan Omar think?
Yeah, I mean, ICE has been carrying out state-sanctioned violence in our communities. We have seen them terrorize so many of citizens in the 5th district.
I'm going to have to hear that again. What did she say just now? She's saying some... I don't like when she... Let's
even be on ICE's radar.
What do you think about ICE's presence in your city?
Yeah, what does Ilhan Omar think?
Yeah, I mean, ICE has been carrying out state-sanctioned violence in our communities. We have seen them terrorize communities. We have seen them terrorize so many of citizens in the 5th district
You gotta be kidding me.
and across Minnesota. And that has tragically led to this... that we all watched
those
on
officers
TV.
defended themselves.
And so it is not helpful.
I don't understand how this lady is lying through her teeth like this.
Yeah, I mean, ICE has been carrying out state-sanctioned violence.
State-sanctioned violence? I mean, I'm guessing she's talking about, like, the federal government, but when she says it like that, it makes me think that she's talking about her state-sanctioned violence, which actually would be more appropriate. That does sound like accurate to me, that her state absolutely sanctioned this violence to occur, because she incentivized her rhetoric incentivizes these protesters to go out and become criminals the moment they start interfering with ICE physically. She's the one incentivizing this. So the sanctioned violence, yep, this is her. That's her. Like, what are you talking about? Tell me what you are. That's what this is.
In our communities, we have seen them terrorize so many of citizens in the 5th district
You gotta be kidding me.
and across Minnesota. And that has tragically led to this...
those officers defended themselves.
And so it is not helpful for us
They
to
just
have
need some
ICE
spice.
agents
Give them some spice.
unlawfully just
Oh my
carrying out
goodness.
these ridiculous
Is she so
raids.
happy the mobs are out
And
there?
I join our mayor and our senator in asking them to get the heck out of our city.
She's basically calling for an insurrection.
President Trump
Unapologetically.
went on Truth Social, and he posted about the video, and he posted a different video than the one I think a lot of us have seen. He said, "It's a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator, and the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and
That's
resisting."
exactly what
Then
happened.
Well, that's an incredibly delusional statement.
So one of the architects of all of the fraud in Minnesota says that the president is delusional and says that the president's the bad guy. Meanwhile, the governor is invoking the Civil War.
It was Minnesota.
Look, Cass just made a great point there. He made an amazing point. Look, you're gonna tell me the president is delusional, coming from the politician whose state was just uncovered to have billions of fraud. And Tim Walz is not running for re-election because of that fraud, because he has, honestly, and if you watch I've watched the PBD interview with Nick Shirley. That interview, he goes into the fact that, and it pops up videos and shows, or past interviews, it pops up past interviews and shows that, or press conferences, not just interviews, but press conferences where Tim Walz is admitting that he knew about the fraud. He knew about it for months. He's been known about it. He ain't care, because if you say anything about it, you're a racist. You're an Islamophobe. Get out of my country. Get out of my country.
First that held that line for the nation.
Get off.
When?
On that July 3rd, 1863. And I think now we may be in that moment that the nation's looking to us to hold the line on democracy, to hold the line on decency.
He's calling
to
for
hold
insurrection.
the line on accountability, and more than that,
That's not accountability.
to rise up as neighbors.
Accountability means
and
he's in
simply
jail.
say, we can look out for one another. We can have differences. But we proved to the world going on 250 years that our democracy could hold. It feels to me like we're at one of those inflection points.
So according to the governor, who could wind up in federal prison, we're at an
one of those
inflection
inflection
point.
points.
And we sure are.
This grocery store is actually not just like a normal grocery store.
Oh, it's not a normal grocery store?
There's
What
actually
kind
a bunch of other stores inside of the grocery store. So right here you have one store, right here you have another store, and then right here you have another
Okay.
store. Then up here you have another store.
Is there any fraud going on here?
I would say the
there
same
are 6
thing.
separate stores. How's
We are
life
at an
here
inflection
as a
point.
Somalian?
Life is good.
We just don't say it for the same reasons, Tim.
Sending money to Africa. That's where
Okay.
I do. The business is good
And how have you seen the rise of Somalian here inside of Minnesota?
as well. You know, the rice is good, and we have a place to pray, and life is good.
How long have you lived here in America for?
For 10 years now.
And when you came here, did the government bring you here, or did you come here by your own choice?
I came here by my own choice. I was one of the refugees from Uganda.
I'm saying, yeah, how dare I expect
You were brought by
that?
the UN to come into
How
the United
dare
States?
I expect
And
an
life
American
is good,
shop?
you know. We try to
in
enter
America.
into businesses. We intermingle.
How dare I?
Look, if this guy's not doing anything illegal, if he's out there in public running a legitimate business, no problem. But the question is, who's sending money out of the country, and where did they get that money? Don't ask Ilhan Omar.
Our spending bills.
Why should they be able to siphon off money and send it back into foreign pockets? Why? Tell me why that is. Why should the American dollar and the American taxpayer go and have their money siphoned off and sent off to foreign countries? That's what happened with Somalians in Minnesota. That's what they were doing. Where do you think all those millions of dollars went? Clearly it's not in the business. It wasn't the child care is getting that millions of dollars invested into the child care. There was no kids. There was nothing there. Only some of them looked like semi-decent on the outside, but then it looked like a prison inside, I'm sure. All that stuff was getting sent, guaranteed, back to Somalia, back to their families, in order to fund more people coming in or fund terrorist groups in there. That's the kicker of the terrorist groups. Oof. Imagine that. Imagine our own taxpayer dollars funding another plane event. That's why I'll leave it at that. I don't know if YouTube is weird on that term. On you know, the 9 twin hockey sticks event. Like in this situation with with the amount of fraud that we have, it's, to me, it's not even like a small likelihood. It's almost like a foregone conclusion that our taxpayer money has been funding people who hate America and want to kill us. Or, hopefully want to unalive us. Sorry, YouTube. Hopefully don't take down the stream. I'm going to end the stream and then bring it back up because I'm sure YouTube is going to put down the stream for that. I'm sure, because I said that very nice and clearly for everyone to hear. Unalive is what I mean to say. I need to get used to that. Yeah, so that's going to be one of those things. I'm going to go ahead and preemptively do it. Okay. Y'all have a good one. Yeah. Sorry, we're right in the middle of it. I'm going to have to... Look, YouTube, please. I know you don't like from what I understand, you don't like conservatives, but please do not take down the stream for one little mistake. Please don't take it down. It's probably going to be taken down. We'll see.
Making its way through Congress was a $1 million earmark from Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, which was an earmark that was supposedly going to a substance abuse
Just means I
clinic,
probably have to delete
which
the screen.
actually happened
Can't
to be
stay up.
housed in a restaurant and run by
Unfortunate.
3 individuals that share the same residential address,
That's like what we just
according
saw.
to their IRS paperwork. Tons of red flags.
They're still
so
doing
this
it.
is what we saw with the fraud involving the daycare centers.
They're
no freedom of speech
still
on
doing
mine.
it.
Ain't that
No
crazy?
one's
No
been
freedom of
held
speech.
accountable. We've got these elected representatives out there crying how evil and awful and unjust America and the Trump administration are, and they're still trying to pass their scams at a federal level.
Now we see other earmarks coming directly from members of Congress where it seems fraud is being perpetrated as well. So I raised the issue, and fortunately, the House has now stripped that earmark out of that spending bill. But again, this is how easy money has been flowing to bad actors in Minnesota.
Right, it's disgusting. That's why the government should have less of our money, not more.
And use the welfare state to do it.
Right.
Critics are also asking why Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's husband reportedly purged key officer official details from his $25 million venture capital firm's website.
Why would he do that?
Now, this move comes amid growing questions about the couple's wealth and possible connection to the welfare fraud.
Be back, guys.
According to her latest financial disclosure in May, the couple's net worth surged 3,500% in just 1 year. It estimates now putting it anywhere from $6 million to $30 million. Their net worth went up 3,500%.
Even Nancy Pelosi's not doing that well. Come on, this is a red flag. Something fishy is happening here. At least that's what it looks like.
How do you explain that? Their net worth went up 3,500%. How do you explain that?
$30 million. $30 million. $3,500% increase.
And then talk about the scrubbing on the website. That doesn't look good. What's Walz doing about that? Is he looking into this?
Well, certainly not. I mean, he's certainly supportive of whatever they're doing. And this is one of the other things that we need to address is the extent to which members of Congress find themselves getting wealthy while they're in Congress.
Right.
In this case, it appears by being completely in bed with all of the fraudulent activity that's going on in Minnesota. Of course, we should investigate this. Of course, we look into what they're scrubbing from their website.
Right.
I think we've got to explore this as far as we can, including potentially looking into denaturalizing and removing Ilhan Omar if she's violated our laws.
Sorry, I'm gonna scrub through this a little bit just because
right
I
to
don't want to just sit here and be, one for one sitting here like I'm just scrubbing his video.
Foreign born. We froze.
But I think the point is there. Yeah, Ilhan Omar is becoming absolutely flots off of this fraud. And all this taxpayer money, insider trading, like all of what we know goes on in our politics, and that our politicians have failed to address time and time again because they get fat too off of it. Let's just call it what it is.
That's the feeling.
Marky, we are expecting to hear from some local officials later this morning. As you can imagine, tensions are still incredibly high here in Minneapolis. Late last night, Minnesota State Governor Tim Walz said he officially authorized the National Guard to be staged and ready. Overnight, we saw more protests throughout the city of Minneapolis. There were people with signs telling ICE to get out. Protesters here in this city very angry
organized all
over
these
this week's
people?
deadly shooting and the immigration crackdown.
We're supposed to
in the
believe these
state
are
of
normal
Minnesota.
people. One of them said she's getting paid.
Yeah. To me, this is like, a show of force in a sense. Like, that's why I think they pay protesters, because I think it's like a show of force in a way. Because they think that's what the military is being used for on the right, is for shows of force, and not like just simply like, no, let's bring back the law and order that we all previously agreed upon, and that y'all have just kind of, you know, allowed lawlessness to be the rule of the day. And now we're seeing the fruits of that.
Frustration all day yesterday outside of a federal building. Hundreds of people yelling at border agents to pack up and leave.
That's their job, to yell.
Yeah, if they inflame the tensions to this degree, then they push out conservatives, is my point. If they bring out and do this shows of force with these many protesters, the conservatives, I think, who live in these areas, or the people who are moderates, they're either compelled, they're like, you know, they're caught between a rock and a hard place, in a sense. They're going to join the protest, or they're going to shut themselves and hide from the protest, or they are opposed to the protest, in which case they're being very much, you know, intimidated upon and like impressed upon that they are like in the wrong, you know. And that's the other thing too, is like how you wouldn't really find that many anti-protesters when it came to something like this, because from what the portrayal is, the optical, you know, portrayal is that, oh, these people are protesting because a lady was killed, so why would you anti-protest? Did you want the lady to be killed? Not yes, sorry YouTube. Unalived. And so anyways, the whole point being that can't continue to happen. And people are going to be pushed out of those cities who had a nuanced view. I think most of the people who had the nuanced view are being pushed to the extremes with events like these. And that's what they're designed to do, is to push the moderates to the extremes.
Pepper spray, some tear gas, and protesters tell me they're not leaving until ICE does.
Yep, because they're being paid.
Tell me your message to federal officials right now.
Our message is to get out of Minneapolis. We will continue to put the pressure on peacefully.
I don't see that happening.
With determination and commitment, because this is not the way.
Listen to the screaming in the background.
And this is not the country we live in.
Right, but where's the peace? There's no peace going on here. These people are just attacking this jailhouse in order to get arrested and let the news film it to try and turn public opinion against the law enforcement apparatus of this country.
Well, it's another really painful and traumatic experience for our state here, and again we have
shutting down the state.
Governor of our state, other leaders have totally failed to step up to meet the moment. You know, Tim
they don't want to
Walz,
step up.
Said that the state is at war with the federal government. That he's calling the National Guard to.
He has said that. He has said his state is at war with the federal government. He's telling his constituents.
Oh, I had my mic muted this whole time. Sorry about that, Cash. I'm trying to see if I can't get myself out of your way, so that way you can have the floor here when your video here.
Constituents to get out there and use their voices and be heard, but be peaceful, but we're at war. But be peaceful, but we're at war. This doublespeak, the mobs are hearing what they want to hear, and they're doing what they want to do because they know their governor is behind them.
Oppose the federal government. This is really just bizarre behavior on the part of our president. Really troubling in terms of his state of mind, in terms of how he thinks about it. We need leaders right now to step up, turn the temperature down, to bring people together.
They're not doing
that. Tim Walz continues to do just the opposite.
That's it. He's turning up the heat.
It's so many of your elected leaders. Over the past 48 hours, we have heard complete misunderstandings of law. And as an AG candidate, I'm sure, you saw that as well. We've also seen a lot of rage and, quite frankly, lies when it comes to facts.
And the reason that they do that, these politicians, they get out there and they thump their chests and they hit their podium and they say, what ICE is doing is illegal. It's not illegal, but they're lying. They're an elected representative, and they're using their position of power to project lies that go right into the ears and manipulate the hearts and minds of their sanctuary residents.
What do the majority of Minnesotans think when they see their elected leaders, led by Tim Walz, demonstrating what they've shown over the last 48 hours?
I mean, clown show.
Well, I think you'd have to say that the vast majority of Minnesotans are just deeply troubled about the trajectory of our state, particularly over the past 5-6 years of Tim Walz's leadership. He's been totally ill-equipped. He's been totally negligent in so much of his leadership.
Snowballs at their own police.
Circumstances like this, when it comes to fraud and so forth. And so the average Minnesotan is looking out there and saying, what happened to the state, this true leader of the country that we had?
Richard Reeves live in Minneapolis with more on that.
Why is ICE near the schools if...
I think that's enough for Cash's video. I think we got the point. I think I got the point, at least. I mean, even if y'all didn't. Declared civil war, she by she. He means Ilhan Omar. I didn't really get much on the what Trump's military is doing.
Car into a government
That's
vehicle
terrible.
and drove onto
What our
school
military's
property.
doing.
ICE says a man identifying himself as a teacher assaulted a Border Patrol agent.
Wow, that's the
Agency says
teacher.
people began throwing objects at the officers and their vehicles.
And then the mobs attacked.
We did reach out to the Minneapolis Public Schools to get their version of what happened. We have not heard back.
I wouldn't want my kids being taught by that teacher.
We work every day, day in and day out, to pay our bills and make sure that we can live safely, and we can't feel safe in our own community.
But whose fault is that? Is that the fault of law enforcement who's here getting criminals who are so dangerous they'll lead federal agents who are armed and wearing military body armor on a 5-mile pursuit and then crash their vehicle after trying to run over federal agents with that vehicle? Is that the fault of law enforcement for catching that guy, or is that the fault of sanctuary?
I'm gonna jump in there. It is the thank you. Anyways.
Leaders who have allowed your city to become that.
A lot of legal leeway in pursuing suspects. But what about access
He
to school
tried
property
to
or
really hurt
buildings?
somebody.
Former Chief Immigration Judge Ryan Woods says
Oh, a judge.
there are limits.
If a area is closed to, like a classroom, would presumably be closed to the members of the public during regular business hours, ICE would not be permitted to go into there without permission from someone from the school district saying that they're allowed to go
Or
into
a
that
warrant.
space.
Wow, okay.
Now, ICE says no students or faculty were targeted. They say their agents wouldn't even been here if they were not pursuing that particular person.
Okay.
Holy crap, the shooting of a young lady in Minnesota by an ICE agent has really took the United States news media by storm.
That's the only thing that the news media is choosing to talk about right now. That's the honest truth. I think that's become the mainstay of the media, and that's going to be the mainstay in the media for the next 2 weeks. At least 2 weeks. Oh my gosh, I wish they would hurry up and get on to the next thing. But I think that this is going to be something that sticks around for a little bit, because I think it's probably going to lead to something else pretty big. If the protests get escalated more, if they escalate more. Sorry, I keep looking over, guys. I'm like, here, there we go. That's better. So yeah, so I think that's what's going to happen. It's just going to end up being more of a problem. That's in reality what's the issue's going to be. There we go. I need to like move the camera over a little bit. Maybe that will help. That way I'm not, because I have a habit of, I don't know if anyone else has this habit when they stream, but when I stream, I'm finding that I have the habit of wanting to like look at my face. Like I'm wanting to stare at myself while I'm streaming, or at least check like not stare, but like check, you know, at least when I'm talking. So find that easier to stare at my fucking face talking than staring at the camera. A little bit more intuitive. I don't know if anyone else has that same thing.
I can't remember a police-involved shooting that was this large since George Floyd. Ooh, Minnesota catching no breaks. And I say it's on the level of George Floyd. Snow. While stuck in the snow, the ICE agents radio to others that they need assistance. Now during...
Love Angry Cops, by the way. Go watch Angry Cops. He's got great videos. Love the meme reviews. He's gonna break this down for us a little bit on the facts versus the narrative. Definitely go check it out.
During the time that the ICE agents are stuck in the snow, that other agents begin to arrive so they can assist them in getting unstuck, a group of anti-ICE protesters, at this moment known as ICE Watch, block the road and obstruct traffic. The protest vehicles obstruct the roadways where the ICE agents' vehicles are located during this investigation, and that also includes civilian vehicles that aren't associated with the investigation. ICE agents then approach the vehicle that is obstructing traffic. That vehicle attempts to drive off while ICE agents are making contact.
That's a key detail there. This is a much better angle he has here. This is a much better angle.
And obstruct traffic. The protest vehicles obstruct the roadways where the ICE agents' vehicles are located during the...
If you want to watch the whole video, you're going to have to go to his video, give him the view, give him a like, shoot him a like. Great video. Definitely go check it out.
This investigation, and that also includes civilian vehicles that aren't associated with the investigation. ICE agents then approach the vehicle that is obstructing traffic. That vehicle...
He's like, that car's obstructing traffic, needless to say, like he said, but horizontally, she's literally blocking the road, and it's snow on the sides. Unless you want to get stuck or you got ice, ice equipment, you ain't rolling through that.
Attempts to drive off while ICE agents are making contact with it, and in the process, potentially strikes an ICE agent, resulting in that agent discharging his firearm. And that also includes civilian vehicles that aren't associated with the investigation.
Sorry, wait, was that the same incident? I'm sorry, I keep muting my mic and then I forget to turn it back on. Is that the same incident? That was...
ICE agents then approach the vehicle that is obstructing traffic. That vehicle attempts to drive off while ICE agents are making contact with it, and in the process, potentially strikes an ICE agent.
Is this... Buzz Patterson. I'll have to check that out here in a second. See if I can't pull it up real quick. See if it's here. He's a New York Times best-selling author. Trying to find it here. What the heck? Oh, wow. I mean, there's even... Hang on, let me... Can I bring this back over here? Yes, I can. Yeah. So... She looks right at him and smiles. This is the last frame before Renee Good hit the ICE officer. What do you notice? And she's actually like smiling That's what's crazy. She's actually smiling in this. Yeah. Definitely go check him out. Go give him a follow. I'm actually following him now. Check him out.
Agent, resulting in that agent discharging his firearm and striking the driver of that vehicle. The driver received medical aid on scene, but was pronounced dead from their injuries. Now that's as vanilla as I could make it. But like everything in life, it's not that simple, is it? Now, once the internet got a hold of some of the video by some of the protesters and other witnesses that were around the incident, of course, the internet took it and ran with it. And just like that, the internet has been filled with use of force lawyers. Those determining what is or what isn't legal, what is or isn't justified, and trying to place intent on the driver or the ICE agent that fired his duty weapon. And that also includes intentionally leaving out other videos or deleting comments that could or do conflict with their statements or their point of view of the overall incident. So let's start at the beginning, go through all the videos, some of the comments, concerns, and the conclusions that people draw from on the internet, and we'll compare them to case law to determine whether or not this was or wasn't a lawful shoot. I find this to be one of the more interesting points of this police-involved shooting. Let's say, in a perfect world, where the ICE officer is without blame and we already understand that he is authorized to use deadly force. When does that authorization
make sure my mute's off before I start speaking? Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Like having the horizontal position on the roadway, you're already in a bad, like from a point of view of security and the officer, the agent's point of view, you're not in a good position. You need to move and you are posing in potentially imminent danger. You could be blocking them off for an ambush. They could be like mob people just pull out any sorts of weapons and attack on the and pull off an attack on the officers. They can't play around with this, and they've already been boxed in. We've already seen this happen. They've been boxed in. And what was it? Was it officers or ICE agents? I think it was officers and ICE agents. They were being pinned down underneath that bridge in California. I think it was. This has already happened. What do you think is going to happen if you block in these officers? They don't know what you're trying to do. What were you trying to do? We don't know. Protest by blocking them? That's not a protest. That's interference.
Of deadly force, stop.
Physically.
When is the vehicle no longer a threat? The first shot, let's argue and say that he's 100% in the right and that she is aiming for him, and he lets off that first round. There are photos of the bullet hole going through the front of the windshield. But what about the next two? The next two are when he's slightly to the side of the vehicle and shooting through the driver's window. If we can argue that the first shot is a legitimate good shoot because he was in front of the vehicle and feared for his life, could we argue that because he's to the side of the vehicle, that those second and third shots are an overstep when it comes to use of lethal force?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you can argue that those other two would be a unjustified lethal use of lethal force. Hear me out. I think the reason why you can't say that is in a life and death situation, it's often said that when you fear for your life, the officers have a history of just emptying that mag. Next thing you know, you don't remember how many times you pulled the trigger in that stressful of a moment. You're just trained. Your training is to let off the rounds, empty the mag if you must. You keep firing until the danger has subsided. So I don't think that would necessarily, as long as they were justified within the moment of pulling the trigger, then the subsequent shots, I don't think it's gonna matter. Not unless Not unless it was like some crazy extenuating circumstances. I don't like I'm trying to think of an extenuating circumstance that could come up, like, firing whilst moving forward and like ending your last shot in like a standing over top them execution style kind of. Then I can absolutely see like like Dark Souls kind of thing where the bots are just still attacking you even though you're a corpse. It's like, yes, then at that point we ought to be able to charge you for something. I'm not gonna say the word because I don't know how YouTube just doesn't like words. They don't like certain words. I'm hoping they'll be a little bit nice to me on this one. It's only my second stream, so I got to get used to this.
What the people investigating this shoot are going to have to do is determine that one reaction resulted in that simultaneous firing of 3 rounds, bang, 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 or will they say that although the first round was justified, in that split second between the first and second round, there was no...
They'd have a hard time proving that, I think, personally. I think they'd have a hard time proving that. In that split second, like he's already kind of hinted to it, but that split second between, I don't think. I know there's probably a lawyer who would argue that, but I don't think they'd win and convince a judge.
Longer a threat to his personal safety as the vehicle was going to the right of him, making the second and third shots no longer justifiable lethal force. Honest opinion, because it happened so closely, I doubt that the second and third shots will be used as a secondary incident trying to show an excessive use of force. Either it all is or none of it is. Sure,
I agree. That's pretty much exactly what I'm saying. I concur. I concur with Angry Cops here, and he is a cop, so I'm gonna take this man's word for it on this side of things. He's probably seen a lot of different officers in similar situations of a use of force measure, and that he would understand in the courtroom what they're going to be likely asked. Whether he's had to testify being a part of one of those shootings or having done it and participated in one himself. Either which way, he would have knowledge of use of force proceedings and how that's adjudicated in the courts, and what standard they're using to judge an officer's actions, because he's subject to those exact same standards.
You can slow it down to make it seem like an eternity, but the time between the first and third shot...
But they're not all universally applicable standards, but they're not exactly the same standards, because he's even said that. But there are like the basic ones, the basic universals.
Shots are only a matter of 1 to 2 seconds.
Because America. No! Oh yeah, see now. Oh wait. Yeah, hang on. Use my new. Yeah, back that up here. He fired. I think that was the frame in which he fired. Is that the frame? Yeah, right there. That's the frame where he fired. See, she's moving forward in that moment. Bang! Like you see the glass spray open right in there, right up in here. He's probably gonna go into this, but if he doesn't, I'll just skip past it. This is my breakdown right here on the stream. Within the first second, bullets off. So, and then he slips to the side, like literally 13 frames, so that's less than half a second. Within less than half a second, she's pulled off and he's bang, 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 done. Less than half a second? A second? Of course, come on now. And these people are rioting. These people are rioting over this. This is why I didn't want to watch this. This is why I kept so long. It's because I knew that I was going to come to a different conclusion than all these people, and it was going to make me upset that these people have rushed headlong into this conclusion.
And now we get to the aftermath of the shooting, the conclusion, the aid that's given medically to Miss Good, and also the 911 dispatch calls.
Tried to save her life.
I've received, and I'll share
as you should
with you. In some of the videos from the aftermath, it shows
just because she was absolutely making poor decisions at the time, it doesn't mean that you don't try and save her life. That's what the agents try and do. These ICE agents they have, I doubt these ICE agents had any ill will. They just wanted to come home to their families. That's it. They want to come home to their families too. And she put herself in that situation. Why was she even there? That's the question. Why is she there? She has no justification, legal or otherwise, to be there.
Those officers walking away, specifically the officer that shot Miss Good. People say that that's a red flag. They also state that nobody was giving her medical aid fast enough, and that civilians on the side of the road were stating that they could render aid, or that they were medical physicians themselves and could assist the officers.
Can I go check a pulse? No, back up now.
And I'll talk to those two things directly. First, the officer involved with the shooting not rendering aid and walking away. It's normal practice for an officer who gets involved with an officer-involved shooting to immediately remove himself from the area and allow other officers to render aid. There are already dozens of other officers there, ICE agents, etc., that can assist Miss Good after being shot in the...
Perhaps it has something to do with, the optics of having the person who just, fired in the incident involving a discharge of a weapon. I'd imagine it would have a weird optic to have that same individual trying to render aid. Me personally, if I was injured, if I was injured by a weapon of a caliber, I don't know how weird YouTube is, but if that happened and I knew the individual who did it and I witnessed it, like I witnessed the individual shoot me, whatever be the case, shoot that thing, in that thing. But if that was the implication, then I'd be quite perturbed if I woke up and seen them, even if they were rendering aid to me. You probably feel some type of way about the injury that you received from that person. And so if the person had I'm not saying I would, but I'm saying if the person felt perturbed enough, there's certainly there would be some crazies I could imagine out there who would be like, wake up and be like, oh, you're rendering aid to me? Cool. Where's my weapon? Pulls knife, and I'm sure there's an instance. I'm sure there's a police incident where that's happened. I'm sure. Usually, if there's a rule for it in the police department, it's because it's happened. Usually. That's how it is with most rules. Otherwise, there'd be no rails on the Grand Canyon.
The vehicle stopping.
Unless there was someone who's dumb enough to fall off into the Grand Canyon. I shouldn't be mean. I'm not trying to be mean by saying they're dumb, but be prepared.
Why the officers involved in the shooting walk away from incidents like that is to protect the integrity of an officer-involved shooting investigation. Hypothetically, if I were to shoot somebody and then I was the person rendering aid to that individual and that person died, would you not, or the public not, immediately wonder if I was actually rendering aid to the person that just A, tried to kill me, and B, that I just killed? Even in this scenario, as much news as it's got, I think it's reasonable for you and I to agree outsiders looking in, including media, would have been upset that the officer who shot Miss Good was rendering aid and that she passed away. So it is common practice that the officer involved in a shooting that pulls the trigger, is not the individual to render aid to an individual that's been shot. I see that as a non-issue, but let me know if you disagree. Second, the rendering of aid by an
I think it's a non-issue. I think the only way it would become an issue is if he was one of the only people there. If he was the only one with the experience to render aid, then that would become an issue. Or if he was the most qualified, let's say. Let's say he was like I don't know how the teams are organized, but say he was the medical expert on duty and he would just happen to be like, they didn't know it, or she didn't know it, but she just tried to run over Doc. Like, and Doc defended himself, Then what? That's actually, I don't know if that's a stupid question or if that's a good question. I don't know if there's metal. I think most, to avoid that, I think all of the cops are trained on a base standard so everyone can render aid. It's just everyone has to call the professionals and wait for the ambulance to arrive. I think I'm just associating it more with military MOSs, and so that I'm like, is there like a medical expert on the like SWAT team, so to speak? I don't know how that works. I wonder if I'm curious if anyone can tell me that. If you were like if you happen to have been a medical doctor on specialized with the SWAT team, let me know if that works that way. I'm curious.
An individual that's on scene.
I'll have to look that up.
We already have a chaotic scene where individuals have tried to prevent ICE agents from doing their investigation, and it's resulted in an officer-involved shooting. At this time, I think we can understand that the optics of allowing random people into an evidentiary lockdown area because it's an officer-involved shooting is a bad idea. Most officers are already trained in some form of quick combat casualty care. Tourniquets, quick clot, is really bandages and pressure in order to assist somebody in living, to include CPR.
To assist someone in living. Beautiful phrasing. We all have the base standard of how to assist you in living. So any of us can do it.
And as we'll see in just
good to know. Thank you for answering my questions.
A moment, when I break down the radio log, Miss Good is rendered aid immediately by professionals, a step above law enforcement officers, the fire department, and their much better trained staff. I'm not sure the fire department here has paramedics on it, but I've yet to see a fire department that doesn't have somebody medically qualified as a paramedic assisting them when it comes to incidents where individuals are injured, shot, etc., before medical personnel arrive. And when I say medical personnel, I mean the ambulatory individuals. So now that we've broken down this scenario, the next portion of the video shows the detainment. After Miss Good waves on a vehicle, ICE agents in an unmarked car activate their lights and exit their vehicle and tell Miss Good to step out. They further their actions by going up to Miss Good's vehicle, trying to open the door and remove her from her vehicle. Now, some people say that ICE cannot conduct traffic stops, which may be correct or maybe playing in the gray a little bit, but ICE agents do have the authority to stop vehicles and effect an arrest or detain somebody.
I was gonna say that does sound like a bit of a gray area. Like I don't think that ICE would be given the authority to conduct routine traffic stops in the sense of like how a local cop would. But then at the same time, if they're pursuing someone on a deportation order or a suspect, like if they're following a suspect, that one of their suspects on their lists, they're absolutely allowed to detain that and then pull over that vehicle 100%. And if you're impeding them, what would possess you to think that they don't have the authority? They have guns. That bare minimum, even if they didn't have the authority given to them by the state, which they do, but even if they didn't, they have the right, the authority given to them by the force multiplier, which is the weapon they have. And I'm not saying you should have one. There's a darn good reason why you shouldn't. Not with them. No. If you were not supposed to be in this country, leave this country. Don't try and take our weapons, because I'm sure ICE has a protocol for how they handle those situations if they discover a violent illegal with a violent illegal with a gun. So you see what I'm saying? I don't think they're gonna I'm sorry for singing that, but I think that they have protocols for that. If they have something like that, then it's not gonna go well for them. The illegal, I mean. Obviously. Back to the video.
If an individual is obstructing an investigation, which, if we backtrack it to the beginning, was the intent of Miss Good being at the ICE agent's location during their investigation. Now, I use the word detained instead of arrest intentionally. Specifically in New York, where I'm from, detained means that the individual that stopped feels as though they're not free to leave. And that can be done in several different ways, which I touched on, and I'll repeat for you again. A law enforcement officer activates the lights in an unmarked car, not uncommon. Gets out of the vehicle, dressed as a uniformed officer. In fact, Miss Good understands that she's there to intentionally prevent ICE agents from conducting an investigation. So she understands contact with an ICE agent, very possible. That ICE agent then gives verbal commands to get out of the vehicle. Now, I know some comments might say, well, it didn't say ICE, it didn't say police, you can't really make it out at that time. Once again, Miss Good is there to intentionally disrupt the investigation of ICE agents. Although it is an unmarked vehicle.
Yeah, it's not that hard to tell that that's a police vehicle or that's a federally marked vehicle. These things aren't that hard to tell, especially when they're on full-blown lights mode. They're kind of meant to draw attention at that point. They go, the whole point of being unmarked is they go from being unnoticeable to very noticeable. The point of the noticeability isn't for you to jump in and be like, hey, that's ICE, we can jump in there now. But that's what that's what I think these protests are all about. What is these protests about? This lady actually passing, getting murked? Or really? Or is it really more about them trying to defend their ability and what they believe is their right, quote unquote, to go and interfere with ICE agents? I don't think this is a right at all. You don't have the right to interfere with ICE agents. Stay away from our ICE agents. They're doing their job. If you want a video them from a distance. Let them do their thing, though. Just like any other federal official. You can ask questions, of course, but not while they're in the middle of an operation necessarily. If it's interfering with their duties, then not so much. It's the same way you're not allowed to jump into in between a traffic stop and ask the officer, hey, why did you pull what was this person doing? You can't necessarily just go and ask for all the details of traffic stop going on. No, not unless you want to be a part of the traffic stop. You're going to be in the traffic stop next for interfering with the officer. Don't do it. Not unless unless you want to pull off to way, in video from a distance in a public area, First Amendment rights, we exercise those. That's why I love the First Amendment auditors, because they push the line, they hold the line, so to speak, on what it is. They're going to hold the line on what it is that is allowed and not allowed. And that can be all meted out through courts. And that's needed. I'm enjoying that, seeing that in the world.
It activates its lights, and a uniformed officer steps out of the vehicle giving verbal commands. A reasonable person would understand that they, at that time, are detained. And
I would just get out the vehicle. There's no reason to fight that. Why would you? If your intention was to look real quick, if your intention was just to block and impede the ICE agents, your vehicle kind of already achieved that, didn't it? Technically, I'm not trying to say that you did a good job, but I mean, you already did what you were trying to do, which was impede. Clearly, you wanted to interfere and impede the ICE investigation. And now they're asking like, oh, okay, here's your reward. Get out the vehicle. We're going to arrest you now. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. And then she's thinking probably from all this rhetoric, she's going to end up in a Gestapo camp or something like that. And so she's, look at this. That's what it is. That's what this is. Now all of a sudden, it's bad. It's bad all the way around. It's this rhetoric clashing with reality. It's having these things clash against each other. That's why I'm saying about the escalation. It can stop. It can stop. It's just people need to, everyone just needs to be like, okay, let's not jump to the conclusion of violence immediately.
Not free to leave. And that detention is highlighted even more after the officer
unless it's ordered in a way.
And continues to give commands to get out of the vehicle while attempting to open the door and remove Miss Good from the vehicle. Now, without trying to sound a little too sarcastic, as I am trying to be straightforward with this, could you imagine what may or may not have happened had she complied with the ICE officer with lights on his vehicle, in uniform, giving a direct command to get out of your vehicle and then attempting to open and remove her from the vehicle? Now, at this point in the incident, this is where the controversy begins. This is where attorneys, politicians, late night TV shows, and other members of the public really focus on. At this moment of the interaction, Miss Good puts her vehicle in reverse and backs up a short distance, and then puts her vehicle in drive as an ICE officer goes in front of her vehicle, making his way around to the driver's side. And she drives forward where the officer shoots through the vehicle. His bullets strike Miss Good, which continues her acceleration into a parked vehicle and then into a pole where the vehicle stops. And I'll break this down further into 3 smaller incidents: driving, striking, and the shooting. Let's start with driving. Having already been given instructions by a
okay, so shooting's probably fine. Okay.
Uniformed officer, Miss Good puts the vehicle in reverse as the officer is attempting to open up her door. It is at this moment that the officer who shoots has already pulled out his firearm. Now, people are disputing, well, she was driving backwards at that time and not a threat. Why did he pull out his firearm? Which, to somebody who's experienced some of these moments in his career, finds mind-boggling. Officers can draw their weapons if a potential use of force incident is present. Potential. Yeah, an officer
I was just about to jump in there and say, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't really even question him pulling out his weapon there. I mean, the moment the vehicle starts moving, you don't know what that vehicle is. What is that vehicle doing moving? What are you doing moving? Why are you moving? You're coming towards me. That's it. Boom. Are you coming towards me? Nope. All right. Now you're not.
Doesn't have to wait for a firearm to be pulled out and then pointed at him to then draw their service weapon. An officer, and this is usually in their manual of procedures, can draw his weapon when he feels threatened or that there is a potential for violence, to include deadly force. An example, if I
getting ran over. Deadly force.
I do a traffic stop and I see somebody rooting around in the center console, aggressively digging at something, I could infer that they could be reaching for a weapon, and I could draw my firearm out. I could then give verbal instructions to show me your hands, and that person could obviously pull out a firearm and shoot at me, or could have just been digging in their center console aggressively because they're panicking and have no weapon on them. Now, in that incident, I would reholster and then engage that person verbally, but in no way, shape, or form is me pulling out or removing my firearm because there is a potential threat, any violation of a manual of procedures, or an excessive use of force. Now, we've already used the word intent.
So. Yeah,
from an officer's perspective, after giving...
I wouldn't think it's a potential over use of force for that, as long as you're not pointing the weapon directly at the person. So you're not pointing it at the person unless there was a clear threat. Which, in this case, like for the going back to the situation with the lady, the moment that car started, like I said, coming towards him, he was down. It looked like in the video. Of course, it happens all so quick, but it looked like as if he was in the low ready. So he wasn't pointing directly at her. But then the moment that car started moving straight up, moving at him, hands free.
Verbal warnings to an individual to get out of the vehicle while wearing their uniform and having their overhead lights. That person decides to move their vehicle, as in shift to reverse and move. And this is while an officer is attempting to open the door and attached physically to the vehicle.
Important. You're right. That's an important addition there. That's a very important addition. That's a whole nother aspect that we have to keep in mind there. You have an officer's arm inside the vehicle. People's arms can get broken. They can get torn off. They can get taken off with the car. They can, go for a ride in the car and then get, and even more injured, potentially, life-threatening injury, up until the point of unaliving. That's bad.
It is reasonable to assume that that person is now going to try and drive away, possibly into officers in an attempt to flee. They have already shown that they will disregard the verbal orders and the physical action of the officer trying to open up the door and drive away. And now we get into a micro point that people are really dialed into. And that is where the front tire is turned to. Individuals are stating that because the wheel was turned a certain way, that adds additional intent or shows the thought process of Miss Good as she backs up and drives forward. Some people state that because her front wheels are straight and pointing towards the ICE officer in front of her vehicle as she accelerates, but the wheels don't get traction, it shows that she was willing to strike the individual officer in front of her vehicle. Others are saying that because she turned the wheel shortly thereafter, that is an attempt in order to avoid the officers, and therefore has no liability and is zero threat to the officer that's in front of her vehicle making his way around to the driver's side.
I could see the argument. I can understand the argument. It's like, hey, I was just backing up and then immediately turn the wheel and try and get out of there. Oh, sorry. But that's a little bit flimsy, I think. It's just a little bit flimsy when you take into account the totality of the circumstances that she placed herself there horizontally. There was zero reason for her vehicle to be in that manner, oriented in the way that she was. It's not like she's pulling out of a driveway. It's not like she lives in that area, from what, the information that we understand, that's out there that I've accumulated. Maybe that she, was a local, but I don't think she was living in that neighborhood.
Side, which makes me want to rehash how we got here. And this will come up again shortly when I talk about the shooting, the actual shots being fired. Miss Good is there intentionally to obstruct ICE officers in their official duties. She is detained by ICE officers when they activate their lights, step out of the vehicle in uniform, given verbal directions to get out of the car, have that officer then reach for the handle and attempt to open the door physically and remove her, and now she...
I don't want to watch the whole thing on stream because I don't want to sit there and watch all of angry cops' stuff. I want y'all to go watch him and not just sit here and watch this.
And the crowd needs to be pushed. Currently understand that the FBI has taken over.
This is a really good video. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna watch the rest of it off stream, just because I don't know all of how fair use works. I know I'm here up in the corner and stuff, but I don't know how often exactly I'm supposed to be reacting to any of it. I'm not sure of the rules. I'm still new to this, all right? So I'm just going to go ahead and play it safe. This is about where I want to end it anyways. This stream has been going on for, what, an hour and a half more? Almost 2 hours we're getting to. This is plenty long enough. This stream wasn't about Ferrari. This was the chill streams. It's just the Ferrari stuff and not about the Ferrari stuff, excuse me. It was about the culture stuff. So we'll go with this. into this, checking out the Minneapolis shooting, the ICE incident. It's been the facts versus narratives. We've checked out Cash Jordan, Warren Smith. Are we closer to civil war? What are your thoughts? I don't think we're necessarily close to, right at civil war. I don't think so. I mean, I think an escalation is very possible, but I don't know if we're going to be at that point for a long time. The only way that I think civil war would come is if we ended up getting towards like the UK standards of immigration. That's when I think we'd start to see actual threats of civil war. Because I don't think that. Call me crazy. I don't think the left has enough testosterone for civil war. To be honest with you, I think the moment any amount of testosterone is thrown their way, and by that I just mean actual genuine use of force in an ordered way, in an ordered fashion, in a professional fashion, then they will just fold. And there's a true difference between competence and bloviating, and I think that's what the left is very good at, is bloviating, bluffing a lot of time. Not necessarily bluffing, but bloviating, as in like how a frog would puff up their throat or whatever. It's not that they can't do damage. They can definitely do damage and swallow things whole, like our institutions, but stuff. But this is not something that you actually have to be genuinely afraid of unless you aren't willing to talk, unless you aren't willing to go out and actually push back on these ideas. Because these ideas they're not strong. They're hollow. When they get pressed, they fold. They flail. Check out any debate channel. I'll check out some debate channels on this channel here. On Fire One, it'll be on some other chill streams, but that'll be it for this one. Thank you. Check it out. This one is the Angry Cops Minnesota ICE incident, facts versus the narrative. Cash Jordan was, we watched she just declared civil war, and is Trump's Marines sweep through Minnesota, I'm assuming is probably what that says. Yep, sweep Minnesota. And then Warren Smith was the first video we watched. YouTubers warn that we are closer to civil war than ever before. Check them out. Check out the resources. If you need to do any research for any of the videos, I just quickly researched a couple of key terms that people were talking about in the videos, just that way I had a reference point. Alrighty, thank you. Appreciate y'all. Have a good one. See y'all next time.